Welcome to Review-O-Meter. I'm your host, Peter. Thank you for listening in to this podcast where myself and a few friends originally watched 4 random titles and we ranked them within one random theme. Today's episode is a little different. This is clearly not Marvel on Disney+, the theme that I said we would be jumping into from the last episode. This is, if you couldn't guess, not a Marvel title, Those Calloways. Why am I reviewing this? Well, it all started from the Parent Trap episode. You see, in that episode, we actually were not supposed to watch the Parent Trap. We did something unthinkable. We told the shuffler to reshuffle. And as I promised in this podcast, the main core of this podcast is that we watch whatever at the random, whatever the shuffler says we watch, we have to watch. Now, I've created some exceptions with the reshuffle cards as of late, and as I also contributed guest choice as part of the select themes that we could possibly land on, as we did with the Netflix guest choice theme from the past. But in that Parent Trap episode, yes, this is what the shuffler picked, and we all just stared at that image on Disney Plus of this movie, and we're just not really into it. I believe the majority of us had to vote, yeah, let's reshuffle, and I'm still guilted by it, so here I am, choosing to review this movie upon viewing, and oh boy, this is a movie. There's gonna be minimal editing in this podcast. It's just myself. I tried to convince Caesar to do this. It didn't seem like anyone else was still interested to watch this one. Caesar was at least interested to do this with me, but time did not allow it. So here I am doing it by myself. It's also good experimenting for me, so to see how I can really keep talking by myself and doing these sort of podcasts. This film was released during the Walt Disney era in the year 1965. Just like in the other Walt Disney era films we reviewed, the lovable actor Ed Wynn plays a character in this film. We reviewed The Absent-Minded Professor, where he cameoed as a fireman. We reviewed Babes in Toyland, where he portrayed himself as the toy maker of that story. And in this, he's just some random citizen of this small town in Vermont. He still plays a kooky character, as he always does. For me, I know him best as Uncle Albert from Mary Poppins. He is also the voice of the Mad Hatter in the original Alice in Wonderland film. You could say, just like John Ratzenberg in Pixar, that Ed Wynn is Walt Disney's Lucky Charm. I'm starting to really believe that. So what's this movie about? I'm jumping right into it. As I said, minimal editing. You're not going to hear a commercial break. I apologize. No music. I'm jumping in. So this story of Cam Calloway and his family, who live in a densely wooded area in New England, the other people of their town actually look at them as the crazies, hence the title, Those Calloways. So, those crazy geese? Hey, that's actually geese. There you go. Did I even talk about that yet? No. So, Cam dreams of building a sanctuary for the geese that fly over the area each year. And he tries several schemes to buy a nearby lake for their sanctuary. Yeah, so this family does a lot in this movie. I think we go through a whole year time period. They remodel their home. They continue to do their hunting. We see the mother do the cooking. We see the son learning from his father. We see the father trying to connect with his son, trying to teach him how to really be a man, teaching him, oh, this is how you saw, oh, this is how you box, or this is how you, and the son actually is doing better than what he expects. So that's always fun. That's what I came to see. What the hell am I talking about again? Yeah, let me continue on with this plot. Cam dreams of building a sanctuary for the geese that fly over the area each year. He tries several schemes to buy a nearby lake for this sanctuary. He is thwarted at every attempt. It seems he and his son try to get enough furs for their trapping venture to get the money, but the bottom falls out of the fur market. He uses the little money they have for a down payment on the lake, thereby losing their house when they can't make the mortgage payment. Yeah, the father is an alcoholic. So, out of spite, when they weren't selling enough fur to earn more money, he decided to buy that land, live his dream. Now, that didn't set well with the rest of the family. The son thinks it's a good idea, but the mother, of course, is all like, that was all of our money, you idiot. Why'd you just do that? And they decide to play it as a nice moment, though, because they celebrate it with, well, screw this house. If we can't live in this house no more, we're just gonna rebuild our home and we're going to make it better in this new area that we just purchased. So, yeah, there's that going for it. There are these charming family moments in this movie. As they're remodeling their new home, a salesman stops in town and tries to get the people to sell their land for a tourist venture. Cam is outraged by his tactics and takes desperate measures after he himself is tricked. So, this random guy from out of town talks about how he's a bird lover himself and thinks that this sanctuary is a good idea. And he offers to give them money to continue with their sanctuary because there's still some stuff that need to be put into this sanctuary. They actually need to fertilize corn so the geese can actually migrate every year because it's almost uncertain whether they actually would come. It's only just sometimes a hot spot for the geese, but because everyone in town is a hunter, I wonder why the geese sometimes are afraid to come to this town. Yeah, who could have seen that one coming? But anyways, this random tourist is a trickster. He earns the family's trust, thinking that he is going to help them build the sanctuary, but he himself is also a hunter and would love for a nice destination to visit to do a lot of geese hunting, as would the rest of the town. So even the rest of the town betray them, which is odd because this family actually did a lot for the town. We see them throughout this movie, throughout the year, celebrating with them throughout the holidays, making food, having these big elaborate dinners with them. Heck, the town even came to their sanctuary to help rebuild their home. And that actually honestly reminded me from Encanto when the town came to rebuild their home after it was destroyed. I don't know why I'm bringing that up. But anyways, yeah, so Disney, it's like poetry. It rhymes. I'm sure right now it sounds like that I'm just glossing through the plot. I guess I'm just trying to summarize the events of what happens because, yeah, this, I have to tell you, it was over 2 hours long. So my memory of it is just going back to these events, these snippet moments throughout the film. I don't really want to get into the real discussion of exactly everything that occurred in this film because, there were just lots of things. I can tell you about the 45 minutes we see the son walking in through the snowy woods, hunting for a single animal. I can tell you about how the husband and wife shared like 20 minutes on screen of why his foot hurts and why he's so sad that he can't go hunting with his own son and why the mother's tired of his bickering while she constantly has to nurture him. Or the times when the son goes to visit the some other random teenage girl in this town and blossoms a romance. There's just how do I describe this? I know that just sounds boring, but you can also look at this as a movie as a piece of life. Other movies to compare it to, A Christmas Story. Yes, as a Christmas film, that is the main event of the film. What is the film actually about? We see Ralphie going through school. We see Ralphie and his family being a family. We see just kind of like in this film, the relationships in the family. How do the mother and father fight? How do they show their love? What do the kids dream about? What's a regular Tuesday like for this family? And we spend a whole year learning more about this family, so not just a single season. The Diary of Anne Frank also has that sort of element where, yes, there's this horrific event going on, and the whole diary is about the family was in hiding. So it's just more into the little things, the romance, the relationships. What's it like when mother's cooking supper? How does the family provide for themselves? And because they live in like a cabin in the woods, this is more like the show, what's it called? The Little House on the Prairie, right? Yeah, that's exactly what this would honestly be like. I don't really remember much of that show, but I could tell you that it's probably like this, where it has those, generic stereotypes of mother, father, and son. And that's not awful. Charming characters can create a charming movie, so it's fine. There's good acting in it too. The father of the family has this distinct voice. When he gets all sentimental, it sounds smooth and soothing. When he gets all angry, he honestly sounds like Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
But wait, you're getting 20 across the ass.
It's frightening. So yeah, it's charming. The storyline has its thoughtful moments. Is this something I would recommend? No, it's just not my cup of tea. Again, it's over 2 hours long. But I definitely can't pass up talking about the ugly of this movie. To start with, right at the beginning, Disney Plus has an unskippable disclaimer warning. They usually have this now for a lot of the older films, just saying that like this depicts certain language and themes that may be offensive to well, I think now they change it to where it says like are offensive and are not appropriate for today and never were back then. You know, something to take, something to educate why we have to remember that things are just not appropriate when we watch old movies like this one, honestly. For example, though we don't meet native characters, the film makes discriminated remarks at indigenous cultures. It's unsettling. It's so hard to sit through. You can already guess that they refer to them just as Indians, not American Indians, not American natives, just Indians. And I think this time frame is like the early 20th century, even though it was released in 1965, so there's really not an excuse there. It's not about calling the culture by the wrong name. They definitely say some things negative about those cultures, about those people, about indigenous culture altogether. They definitely don't side with them in this movie. But moving on from that, sexism. There are a lot of times in this film where the men belittle the women throughout the town, cursing at them for speaking up. It happens, yep. But that doesn't mean that they are portrayed as weak. The wife knocks sense into the family numerous times. She's actually the one that kind of has to carry the weight, carry the financial burden, honestly. Even though, yeah, she still is the homemaker who always has to do the cleaning, do the knitting, make the dinner, do the laundry, while the boys go out, do the hunting, and sit around their asses, smoking cigars or whatever. She still plays as the authoritative figure. But that's really only giving credit to the wife. The other people in the town, the other women are just meh. Don't even get me started on that teenage girl that the teenage boy grew a romance with. I guess I'll get there. But in the defense, the husband threatens others who do insult his wife. There was a scene where the IRS person who told them that they have to get off their property because now they're in debt and the house is now the government. The wife spoke up against him and said, like, why don't you, like, you know, shove it? And the man starts talking back like, how dare you speak up to me, young lady? And the husband, I believe he says something along the lines, now, sir, if you were expecting to leave this house standing, I would suggest you apologize to her right now. It's a funny moment. It's nice to have that little respect, but it's not enough. It still plays off uncomfortable. And as I said before, there's good acting in this. But oh boy, does it come with uncomfortable scenes. So yeah, with the teenage daughter, towards the end of the movie, there was this weird moment where the teenage son goes to visit her at her home and he sees her dancing with another man. I think she was trying to excuse herself why she was dancing with another man, even though they were clearly seeing each other at this point. She was trying to say that she has no interest for that other guy, but the teenage son's like, I don't believe you, I'm hurt, how dare you, blah blah blah. And then as he's just raging on, the teenage boy says, like, I just wanted to show you my love and deserve the respect of your love as well. And he grabs her by the waist and he just goes in for the kiss, and they're crying. She's literally feeling abused, and they continue kissing, and it's just so aggressive. It's so super uncomfortable. And the crying continues, but it's tears of joy because she's in love, and she just always wanted to kiss him, and she just wanted him to understand how much she loves him, and he's happy that he is in love again with her because I think this makes it better. Like, oh no, give me a break. That was really painful to sit through. I don't know what the acting was going on there, but I still gotta give them the credit that the acting definitely did feel real, and a little too real right there. Or even in this other moment early on in the film, the father was teaching the son how to box, and the son was talking about how he read books about boxing, so he knows a few moves, and the father is giving him the whole, yeah, I bet you don't know your father's moves. Put them up. Let's see what you got. And the son goes like, well, Dad, don't you want to like block your face? Because you know you're giving me the open. He's like, there's no opening that you'll be able to find. Poop, pow. right in the face. And he feels a little hurt, and he's like, "Oh, Pa, are you okay? I'm sorry. I just went for it because you told me to." Like, "No, I'm fine. Let's see you do it a second time." And pow, he does it a second time. And the father goes insane. He gets insulted to where he cheats, throws his son to the ground, stepping on his neck, and forces him to eat the grass beneath his face. I'm not making that up. He literally shoves dirt into the son's mouth and tells him to eat dirt and says this is all part of boxing. And the kid is crying and trying to get back up, and he feels weak. And the father is just like, "Aha, see? You don't know all of your father's moves." It was so stupid, and I'm trying to remember it as much as I could, but I know I didn't like it. After describing it, it kind of sounds funny, but it just definitely felt very, very random. A little too much for the characters, enough for the actors to really do. So I wonder what that was like in production. The directing certainly went all sorts of different ways. One last negative thing from this that the director is also very much guilty of is the animal cruelty in this film. There are many times where they use actual animals, like a bear, and they hurt them. They whacked this bear with a broom numerous of times, and I understand maybe these are professional animals. They are trained to act, but you're still causing pain. When they're doing the hunting in the woods, the dog has a log crushed on him, and the camera just shows it. It's like, oh, can you get that log off of him? Not only is the log just laying on him, but we see it actually fall onto the dog. We see the animals hurt each other. Some ferret is literally attacking the dog, and they're biting each other. Like, stop it. Make them stop. You shouldn't allow this. I know this was before the time of, animal rights in films, so I'm pretty sure the animals were indeed harmed in the making of this film, including all the geese that the people were shooting in the sky. Yes, the camera showed the geese flying in the sky and fall as they were getting shot. And you know who else got shot? The father. At the end of the movie, as the family was trying to make the people stop shooting at the geese on their own turf, the father runs in front of his friends with the guns and gets shot himself. So he survives, spoiler alert. He goes into a coma for who knows how long. It probably was a couple weeks. Felt like years of watching this movie because it just felt so long. I can't believe how long this movie was. But yeah, in the end, the dad wakes up and everything's okay. I don't know if they continue on with their geese sanctuary. I don't know if the people are just going to continue to betray them and hunt these geese on their own land. But yeah, because the father wakes up from his coma, that marks the end of the movie. There is a charming story in this film, but it's mixed in with too many negative depictions. I know some would say it's good for a film of its time. Sure, for a film of its time, it may have been a delightful family picture, but I can't excuse a 1965 film for its sexist and racist depiction. Okay, sure, the film's time setting is the early 20th century, so it's accurate, but even so, it's uncomfortable. It's not like the film is agreeing that it's being offensive. No, it wants us to sympathize with the characters and their dumbass decisions and remarks like we're on their side. It's not educating us. That's why Disney Plus added the disclaimer at the beginning. I'm not saying it's something that should be taken off Disney Plus. I very much appreciate that it has its disclaimer warning. I would agree that they should add Song of the South to Disney Plus, so long as there's a disclaimer to go with that as well. Well, for Song of the South, I guess the disclaimer should be a video that goes in depth why the depictions of the film are wrong today. But instead of hiding the shame of our history, we should embrace to better educate the world. But honestly, folks, other than the catchy song, the film animation, and James Baskett's portrayal as Uncle Remus, Song of the South is a very boring movie. And for a film of its time, look at what else Walt Disney released in the 60s at least. Mary Poppins, Walt Disney's all-time masterpiece. And is that offensive? Well, can't really answer that one. Well, not to my belief. I don't think. Well, granted, it may not be progressive. I don't think it's offensive. Well, actually, it kind of is progressive. Winifred Banks, the mother of the two children, she is shown to be an activist of the suffragette movement. I could even argue that Mary Poppins herself is an idol of female empowerment and ridicules most of the world's original depictions and stereotypes of the role of a nanny. Now, I know Sydney, Tyrese, and Kevin constantly trash Mary Poppins. They say it's old, it's boring. Obviously, its cinematography is not polished like big blockbuster films, but that's something I feel that can easily be overlooked, so long as if the characters are great and the story grabs my attention. A cover is not a book, so open it up and take a look, right? But again, the cover is what sells your interest. Those Calloways does not initially sell my interest. It doesn't present itself as something I'd care to see. And finally, upon viewing the film, I can tell you it's not interesting. But I was practically forced by myself to watch this, and if I were to have treated it as a film I had to watch in school, or if it was the only movie on a plane, I can't say it's awful, and that I completely had no interest. I stayed awake, though I did pause the film a lot. Over 2 hours, man, come on, I had to. I don't know. It's not completely awful. Maybe if Disney were to make a remake of this film with only keeping the charming moments and cut out the rest of the ugly, maybe, just maybe, I still wouldn't recommend it. If you do, well then I hope you look past all those uncomfortable parts with racism, sexism, and animal cruelty. And if you can, well, to be honest, that also kind of concerns me. With that being said, I feel like that wraps up my review of Those Calloways, a film that I guilted myself into watching only because we skipped early on. If you care to listen to any of our other episodes where we watch movies at random and ranking them within one random theme, you can listen to this very podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. You can follow this show on Twitter at Reviewometer. That is Reviewometer without hyphens in its username. And you can follow me on Instagram at EwokPeter. I also have a YouTube channel where I upload these podcast episodes, amongst other things. If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and give us a like, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. Thank you for listening to this podcast where I have just reviewed Those Calloways, the 1965 Walt Disney film, part of our second quarter anniversary episode. Again, I don't think I'm going to continue on with the quarter anniversaries because, again, our yearly anniversary is coming up in just a couple months, so maybe I'll do something exciting for that episode. But as for the quarter anniversaries, it's kind of already off track. I've taken way too many breaks, been on a long hiatus this past January, and just about to finally release our Marvel episode, which we have already recorded. We recorded 4 of those Marvel episodes, so look out for those. Other than that, join us next time when we officially begin our next theme, Marvel on Disney Plus, here at Review-O-Meter!